Here's the thing about marketing for your business. It's not optional. It's not the cherry on top, the thing you get to once everything else is paid for. It's the bona fide business expense that drives your business forward. And yet, it's almost always the first thing to go when budgets get tight. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on why that mindset is so damaging, what a realistic marketing budget actually looks like, and how shifting your perspective, especially in uncertain times, can be the difference between just surviving and actually thriving. Whether you're a solo shop or scaling fast, your budget tells the story of what you value. And if marketing isn't in there, let us teach you something. Welcome to Behind the Brand, the podcast for small business owners, solopreneurs, and aspiring entrepreneurs who are ready to start strong, stand out, and stay bold. I'm Taylor.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Isabella, and we're part of the powerhouse team of marketers at Moxie Creative.
We're taking you behind the scenes to explore what it takes to build and grow a memorable brand.
Ready to get behind the brand? Let's dive in. Hello, Moxieverse. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Brand. Taylor here. I'm joined with Kelly.
Hello.
And making her grand
I'm
return.
back.
Isabella.
Hello, if you forgot who I am, I'm Isabella.
Isabella is joining us today, and we are going to be diving into a topic that well, maybe I shouldn't say a lot of business owners like to avoid. Maybe just people in general, like
everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Budget. What's a budget? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yay, our favorite subject.
Yes, and particularly why a marketing budget is so important to businesses.
All right.
Super
Love
fun
it.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Exciting.
Can't wait. Edge of my seat.
You are. When I brought up this topic to you, you were like, I have so many things that I can talk about.
I have strong opinions.
Yes, you do. So let's get started. Let's hear them. Kelly, a lot of times I hear you say in conversation, whether it's candid conversation between, people in the office or even, two clients, you will say, marketing is a bona fide business expense. So what do you mean by that?
Well, one, it's tax deductible. And it's necessary, right? When you go to the bank, maybe to get a loan to start your business, they ask you for a business plan, and in every business plan, there's a marketing section. And it's required. And yet, some people just think that maybe they could get by without it. And so it is a bona fide marketing expense, should be part of your budget. What should you spend on marketing is a whole nother area of topic I'm sure we're going to get into.
Yes, we are going to get into that.
But,
yes.
Some people some businesses really don't even have a budget.
Yeah.
They don't do that planning. We operated many years without that until we grew up and did that. And marketing is, even we have a marketing budget.
Marketing people have a marketing budget. One of the things that you just mentioned is marketing is necessary for your business. And we see a lot of times where it's an afterthought or someone's like, oh, I was, running a business for X amount of years. I wasn't doing any marketing and now the leads have stopped coming in. Why do you think that happens? Or why do you think that all of a sudden people get on this train to be like, oh, now I need to spend some money on marketing?
Well, I think there's many reasons. I could speak from experience. I've had clients who said, my daddy started this business and all he did was shake hands, and I did the same thing. And everybody in town knows me and those type of things. Well, one, it's not the time where your daddy shook hands.
Yeah.
Two, networking is still important. But three, people are moving into St. Cloud all the time. And I think that has changed. And whether you're a well-known business or a new business, you have to keep reminding people you're here. We saw that during the pandemic. If you weren't, and that's when socials became so important, even more than usual. It was like, hey, I'm open for business. So that's how we had to communicate with each other, right?
Yeah.
But just, I think there's one of the billboard company does a great job. They have an ad on their empty billboards that says, most people don't know that you have a business.
Yeah.
And you have to be out there and constantly reminding them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we saw that as a business as well when we switched from our previous agency to this agency while we were in the same building. It was a huge shift, and we had to go out and remarket ourselves completely. It was a very different situation. We
didn't feel that different.
Yes.
But we're like, nobody knows our name. I remember coming into your office.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. It took us about 6 months to realize that, but we realized it pretty quickly. Yeah. So marketing definitely is not just a nice to have. It is a need to have. And there's all different types of things when it comes to marketing. Kelly, when we're talking about kind of this core 3 people here, you are an excellent marketing strategist. You get it from the top down. You love to do all of the digital stuff. I love to do a lot of the content-based marketing, so looking at your website, your blogs, your emails. And Isabella, you like to do the social. So they all should be included in a marketing plan. But if you were going to say, okay, for a new business perhaps, what would be the top things to be like, this is what I should be spending my marketing budget on from the very beginning?
Well, it depends on your business. I can't say you have to have this or that. However, a website's pretty much well up there, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs a website. And I lived through the time where people didn't have websites.
Yeah.
I think I had bought a URL for one of our clients. That's still a client today in 1999. And it wasn't until 2005 I convinced them to do a website. Some people still don't have a website. They think Facebook is a website.
Yeah.
Or they have just a very minimal placeholder and they think it doesn't matter. So a website definitely should be on the top of the list. Things I think that aren't in a marketing budget, let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
You know, business cards and letterhead and envelopes, that's not marketing, that's business supplies. Also, sponsorships and donating to great causes you believe in is community development, but that's also marketing in a way, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't really be, and that should be in your community giving
Sure.
budget, right?
Sure.
And, you know, marketing are those paid tactics or, you know, owned media, as we
Yeah.
call it, websites and that type of a thing.
Ye-
But each marketing plan is unique and it depends on a business's audience and their sales process. How do they get their customers? So what a company spends on marketing really is custom. It
Yeah.
depends on their business. And that's what we do. We help
Yeah.
people figure that out.
And we'll help you figure out what are the things that you should be doing, because not everybody should be doing the same exact thing. Isabella, from your perspective as, you know, maybe a new marketer, and of course we know that you love social, but having been in the Moxie sphere for 2.5 years now, what do you feel like are the really important things that a business should be
Yeah.
investing in?
Well, I'm going to kind of start this backwards because I want to piggyback off of something that Kelly said, because she was saying, you know, like some people think that their website is their Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I've seen that a lot, where I think that when I first was getting into the space, I was right where their heads were at, where I was like, you know, if you're on social media, like that can ultimately like really help your business get along and like help see that ROI there with that. But now my mindset has completely changed on that. I think that if someone is willing to go out there and like start on their social media right away with their business, okay, cool, but you should not be investing in your social media until we have that brand, until we have the website, until we have the content, because I think that a lot of people will jump to that because they're like, everyone's on social media and people
Yeah.
are seeing great results, so let's get on there. Why aren't we on there? They'll start with that, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, we're not getting any business. What's going on? There's no plan with it. There's no way to even push consumers, your audience, to a website or a newsletter. There's just no like
Foundation
bones
into
to
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah. And I think also like there's no credibility. Like,
yeah.
love social for sure, but anybody can do that. Any business can start a social page, and it's free to, you know, start a social page. So when you're trying to build a business or you're taking over a business and you're just like, okay, I'm going to go all in on socials and I'm not going to do any of the other things that help build trust too, or, you know, for someone to say, okay, I found you on Facebook. Now I want to go to your website to learn a little bit more
Yeah.
and see all of your credentials
Yeah.
and those things. You kind of,
Yeah.
you have to start, you have to walk before you can run, right?
Yeah,
And
and,
social
like,
is the running.
You need the foundation in place
Exactly.
for you to be successful.
Exactly. There needs to be a clear why. You know, there needs to be clear, why am I getting on social, especially when you're starting a new account, because at first I thought, okay, we're starting a new account. We can still be like, okay, you want to get leads, like that can be our thing. But no, that it's going to take brand awareness. Your focus has to be on
Yeah.
brand awareness for the first 2 years and just getting followers and like reaching people on that page. It's going to take time. You can even see with some of the biggest brands that had a large audience. Like I've kept up with the incredible social media girl that worked at Duolingo. Now she's working at DoorDash. And she even talked about, even with Duolingo, they already had like 85,000 followers on TikTok, and it still took her 2 years for them to finally like start getting content that was like hitting people
Yeah.
and like reaching that
Engaging.
brand awareness. So like imagine when you're a smaller business and like on that scale, then you can just reach towards local people, but it takes so much more than just getting on social.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to my website answer.
Yeah,
is
go
that
back.
I mean, a website is kind of, if you actually just think about it as a second location or, you know, third, fourth,
Yeah.
as a storefront, you know, just having a website isn't a marketing plan either.
Right.
Right. We have to market the site and
Right.
market other things too. But let's go on to budgets.
Yes, the budgets. Yay. Okay, so every budget looks different, right? There's no magic dollar amount for a business, but there are some things that you can use to help guide you if you don't have any idea, or if you are working with a small business development center, or you go to a bank, you're trying to write a business plan by yourself. There are some rules maybe, or you know,
Guidelines.
guidelines. What are those guidelines for you, Kelly?
10% of your gross revenue, not your profit, your gross revenue. Now, I had a client that was so proud of the fact that he spent less than 1% of his gross revenue on marketing. So that was incredibly smart or incredibly stupid, I'm not sure. But they were a well-established business. So whether you're at 2 or 3% or, because you're established and you've honed in on that and it's working, or if you're at 10% or more because you're a new business. I mean, if you're a new business, you might even be more than that to get launched. So, but that's the general guideline. Now, most people don't spend that because when I say that, they're like, oh, that's a lot. So that can be a shocker, but that's the guideline that we use.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for us, when we hear someone say like, oh my gosh, that's so much. It's like, oh, you're just really not valuing the power of marketing. And, you're looking at it with a mindset that it's like, before coming to agency, I worked in-house. And a lot of the times it was like, well, sales brings in money and marketing just spends it. And it's kind of like, these people that are starting these businesses and maybe they worked in sales like positions, or they just have a hard time shifting that mindset when it's their own business, because that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
Marketing can bring in revenue too.
Especially because a lot of sales teams work off of the marketing team. Like that's
Right.
where it all comes
Marketing
from.
warms it up.
Yeah.
I worked in a sales position where like they were just starting out and they had a marketing team and they were very talented people. At the end of the day, we didn't have our ideal customer persona mapped out. We didn't have the full like brand of who we're going towards mapped up. So my job as a salesperson was so difficult because I didn't know who I was looking for. I didn't know exactly how to pitch it correctly because like that's marketing's role to figure out those pieces
You didn't have
out.
the materials.
I didn't have
maybe?
I didn't have any, and I had to like design my own things. It all works together.
Yeah. The other thing I think why people get confused about marketing is they don't understand what to do. And not that they don't value it necessarily, is they're not sure which tactic to use. Because if you have, these marketing people that, the radio station will say radio's where to be, and the digital provider will say digital's where it should be. And it kind of feels like magic or voodoo to a lot of people, and they're just not really sure who to believe or what to expect or what's the right path. And so then sometimes people will they'll try one thing and then try another, and they're not sure if they're not even sure if it worked because they're not tracking results. And then they get burned, so it's a real fear.
Yeah.
And but I've learned that it's mostly because people don't understand it.
Right.
And so I've received compliments where, wow, Kelly, you're the first person that explained it to me.
Yeah.
And so although we would like to do all the marketing tactics, the truth is that when people bring us a budget, whether it's in that 0 to 10% or not, we do what we think would be the most effective for that budget, right? I also don't want people to mortgage their house to come and hire us.
Yeah.
Or people say, well, if it works, and then they just throw some money at it.
Right.
I don't want that either.
Yeah.
I mean, marketing is an investment.
Yes.
So you should look at it as an expense, yes, but an investment. But you can't be like, well, I can't pay the bills because this didn't work. It should be part of that's when I say it should be part of your budget.
Yeah.
Expect to spend it, and hopefully, and it'll work towards your goals, but it's not going to be like, I don't want you to use the money you're going to use for payroll
Right.
for marketing. So
Right.
that's why I say it should be part of the plan, it should be part of the budget, and then go from there.
Yeah. So this is it's stemming off you talking about, there's a real fear. And this is maybe a little bit off of like budget, but I think people also get a misconception of like, I can't afford to hire an agency like that.
Yeah.
What would you have to say about that?
Well, a lot of times when you're doing the DIY thing, we've talked about this before, you'll spend more money in the process, especially with a brand. You'll spend more money than you would have with an agency.
What about like with digital marketing?
Yeah, same thing, the DIY thing. I think the biggest benefit of hiring an agency like ours is that we will direct you in the right direction. We're not here to take all your money and just to spend it.
Yeah.
But we treat it as if it was our money.
Yeah.
This is what we would do. I mean, we really dig deep and try to figure out whatever the budget is, what do we think will get the most results?
Yeah,
and
for
so
sure.
I think that's better than just trying something. And ultimately, that's what people do come to us. They just want to do it the right way when they start a business, or they've tried all these other things and they're not sure. Because I think we talked about this before too, is that there's a lot of rhetoric out there. You should do it yourself. You should hire somebody yourself. You should, as a business owner, you should just know how to do marketing. Well, you don't just know how to do accounting or know how to be a lawyer or, know how to be a financial advisor.
Right.
You hire those professionals. You should hire a marketing professional too.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with marketing, I mean, there's like I said at the top of this, Kelly, you like really like to do the strategy and the digital stuff. I do a lot of the content stuff. Isabella does social. We have these designers in the back that are incredible. So there's so many different facets of marketing. Like how can a person who specializes in, engineering know how to do marketing?
I know, and I think
it's silly.
Right. And for some, and I think again, because they don't understand it, they're not sure if they're wasting their money by doing that or not.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the other things that you said at the top of this was we saw a lot of marketing going to the wayside during COVID. Marketing always does seem to be the first to go. Even if someone does have it in their budget, it's kind of the thing that goes poof when
Which is
money goes away.
Exactly the opposite. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about that.
When it's slow and you ditch marketing, well, you're just kind of fulfilling your own terrible prophecy.
Right.
I get that when you have to cut things, you're cutting across the board and maybe marketing's it, but it shouldn't just be. And I get it though. Maybe you'd cut marketing before you want to cut an employee, right? 'Cause
Right.
that's a real person and their livelihood. But, cutting marketing totally is not a great idea. I had a client call. He was getting shut down. Now, the COVID was unprecedented. That wasn't just slow. That was, we are closed for business. And he ended up being able to reopen pretty quickly because something he offered was essential.
Sure.
But that was like a happy accident. I remember saying, okay, let's just take this 1 month off because remember, it was only supposed to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Take this 1 month off. See what happens. But I said to him, you don't need to pay me, but I'm going to keep your social going. And that turned out right. That was the only way we had to communicate with each other. We're open. We're not open. Everyone had to stay home. So all of a sudden that came really important. And I feel like at that point is when people realized that they didn't have a great online presence. That's when people were like, oh my gosh, I have to get my store up. Remember we did a few emergency shopping carts, e-commerce stores, and we have a great case study from that. We helped a hair salon put up a shopping cart right when the pandemic started. These are products you could buy from Amazon, but people chose to buy from them, and I think they had like $30,000 in a month. That really helped them.
Yeah,
keep going.
keep them afloat. Yeah, because they couldn't be open.
Anyways,
to do hair.
I went off on a tangent. What was the question again? Oh,
You answered it.
you got
did I?
it. Yeah.
Why people cut the first thing to go? Yeah.
Now, the next thing that I wanted to just touch on is, we help a lot of businesses that are just starting out, right? We help them with their branding. We maybe build a website for them. If they have a product, we'll maybe do some packaging. And then their thing gets off the ground and all of a sudden, poof,
They're gone.
there's no money. They can't continue to work with us. They're kind of just hemorrhaging this beautiful brand that we've created. And it's, the saddest thing that we can watch happen.
Is they take it DIY.
Yeah,
because
right.
they're told they should.
Right. And because, yeah. How do you think businesses should approach that when they're starting out? How do you think that they should plan a little bit better to continue to do things like digital marketing, like social media, like some email blasts?
Well, marketing is ongoing, right? It is a trend that we see where people spend so much money on, like, say, their equipment. We saw it a lot when we were working in that craft beer kind of surge in the 2010s, where they would buy their tanks and get the location and get all of this, and then maybe we would do a logo for them, and that was it. They had no ongoing marketing budget. We're still seeing that happen today. People will, and thankfully, if they are investing in a brand and a website to get their business off the ground, they're not investing in a monthly marketing budget. I think there's a lot of thought out there that, well, I'm just going to put it out there and it's going to sell itself, right?
Yeah.
And we have some clients right now that are kind of struggling with that. They're hemorrhaging money. I mean, they did. And then now they're just like, they want to make some sales before they can start the marketing.
Right.
Unfortunately, it should be part of the plan. I mean, you should just plan on spending a certain amount every month. I just had a discussion with our digital partner about SEO. How that is just an expense every month. And it's a long game, but it's made a big difference for a couple of our clients. And
It's made a huge difference for us.
yes.
Yeah.
But it's just, you don't necessarily see it happening.
Right.
But over time, and it's so that can be tough.
And there's a lot of things with marketing that are long games, even social. Like you just said,
long
that's
game
such
for
a long
sure.
game. And, we're seeing it right now where, we have some clients launch these beautiful brands and, it really helped them try to get off on the right note. There's no money. And so now they're just doing all this social stuff. And what does that look like in your eyes? Are you like inside, like
DIY social.
screaming?
Okay. I'm a fan of DIY social when it's done like with like intent. Like I think it depends on like what like your goal is, right? Like if you are someone who wants to go national, right, and you want to get out there right away, DIY is probably not going to cut it unless maybe you are like really like maybe you're spending money on like a consultant for that, and like working with a social media manager as like a brand strategy. That way you're still getting the help and still getting good content out there and having more of a strategy, but maybe you're not spending money on someone fully managing all of that. It's hard because, yeah, sometimes people want like champagne with a beer budget, right? And especially with social. And then also they want results right away when it's like, it takes years and it's going to pay off. The time's going to pass anyways. So just do it right and it'll be worth it in the long run. But yeah, it takes a while.
So devil's advocate, clients are constantly told this is going to take a while. They spend $30,000 a month on radio, and the radio rep says it's going to take a while because they're talking about brand awareness.
Right.
And they're not lying to
Right,
them.
right.
But the client can't track that.
Yeah.
Or they put up a billboard. I mean, so back in the day before digital, we couldn't track any of that. And we would just say, and if business was pretty good, we'd say, oh, yeah, the marketing worked.
Yeah.
You know? But nowadays, there's more competition. There's more digital. Even we can show them on the social,
Right.
on a digital tactic, on their website analytics, it's working. If they're not seeing the sales, they don't think it's working.
Right.
And so, again, that's
Yeah,
where
we have a client that Isabella and I are working with right now, and it feels like we have exceeded everything that they were doing last year, and sales are still kind of down. It feels defeating on both sides, right? You know, so that's really hard.
Marketing's not the whole
Right,
equation,
right, exactly.
So I think clients get frustrated when we say it's going to take time, and sometimes time passes and nothing gets better.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. So we need to be able to show results too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that's the
But
thing.
when time passes and nothing gets better, that is why it's important to work with a team that's going to be adaptable and going to think fast
Yeah.
and be able to shift around budgets to try new things. Yes, the client has to be willing and trust, and that all comes down to like the relationship and the partnership that you're creating and all of those
Yeah,
things.
and sometimes
but-
clients they just pick the wrong tactic because
Yeah.
they didn't know too. And
Yeah.
so that's why you should have goals for your campaign and your marketing, and you should have regular reporting meetings and all those things. Make sure you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I tell a client like with social media it takes time, I'm not just gonna say it takes time. Bye. You know, like I'm sitting
I
there
think
and I'm
a
like, okay,
lot-
what are we gonna do? How are we gonna fix this? Okay, that's not working. What do we do there? You know, like, and I'm continuing to do that.
Yeah.
And
I think your brain is
Yeah.
always moving.
it's always thinking.
But
moving
that's the new
What's
world of
next?
digital. I'm
Yeah.
talking about mass media where we
Yeah.
just had no way to track.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just be like businesses, oh, the sale went well. The weekend sales were good, so that billboard must have worked. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Or
Right.
that
Yeah.
radio ad worked.
Right.
And so clients have heard all of this.
Yeah.
And so there is a little, I don't want to say distrust, but some
Yeah.
trepidation of, and then define work. What's working? We can say it's working and they don't feel it, you know? So it's
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
communication.
Totally.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Yep.
you can have great analytics and social, and they're like, well, nothing's changing, and it's okay. Then something else is wrong. So
Yeah,
let's figure it out. Yeah.
Right. So if we summarize it, I mean, you should have a budget, and you should also have some expert help and someone that's going to take care of that budget and adapt and measure and change as needed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies, wonderful. This was such a great little episode. Happy to have all of your expert wisdom, Kelly, and happy to have Isabella back joining us.
Yes.
So if you're out there listening and you're thinking about starting marketing budget, or you already have one and it doesn't feel big enough, or it feels just right, whatever that looks like, just know that the important thing is that it exists, that having a marketing budget is going to help your business grow. There's never going to be a perfect time or a perfect number, but setting something aside, even if it's a small amount, forces you to think intentionally about how you're growing instead of just hoping that something happens. While it can be really tempting to pull back, we have seen time and time again with clients that if you just continue to keep showing up, keep telling your story, eventually things will pay off. Thank you.
Thanks.
And see you next week.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Behind the Brand. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend. If you didn't, share it with an enemy. To keep up with us, follow along on our socials. Links are in the show notes below.